Welcome friends, let's take a look at finding tangent of x plus y, and we'll do this by, so first remember that e to the ix, for example, times e raised to the iy, so that would be equal to e raised to the x plus y, and then I, which, as you very likely know, would then be equal to cosine of x plus y plus I sine of x plus y. Famous formula. Now, using this, basically, we establish a famous identity that tells us that cosine of x plus y is equal to, of course, cosine of x and then cosine of y minus sine of x followed by sine of y. And then likewise for sine of x plus y, we established the identity cosine of x, sine of y plus sine of x, and then cosine of y this way. Okay, so we've got those. Now we can find tangent of x plus y pretty simply by doing tangent of x plus y. That's just equal to sine of x plus y divided by cosine of x plus y. Pretty standard. And now we can just replace each of those with the corresponding identities from above. So in other words, cosine x sine y plus sine x cosine y divided here by cosine of x plus y, which is cosine x cosine y minus sine x and then sine y. So how do we factor that red part out? Okay, so for now, just copy the numerator unchanged. Cosine x sine y plus sine x cosine y. And in the bottom, factor it out. So it's going to be cosine x cosine y. And when what's left over is 1 minus sine x sine y. But if you're going to factor cosine x cosine y from each term here, then you cannot just leave this new term within the parentheses with the sine x and sine y. What you have to do, of course, is divide by cosine x and cosine y this way. So that if you distributed this cosine x, cosine y here where I'm pointing back across, it would cancel. So you're going to have, in other words, at the next stage, then in the numerator up here, we need to factor a cosine x and a cosine y out. So that we can cancel the cosine x and cosine y in the bottom. So we're going to have the following. Cosine x and then cosine y. So I just want to match what's in the bottom. But that means then in the numerator, just focus on the numerator, you're going to have this. When from cosine x sine y you factor out cosine x cosine y, then what you have to do is the cosine x goes out, but the sine y has to be placed over cosine y, like this. You see? So if you brought the cosine x cosine y back across, it would cancel with the cosine y in the bottom. And the same thing with the next term right here, right? So sine x cosine y, you got to factor. When you're factoring a cosine x cosine y out, then you're going to be left with the following. Sine x over cosine x. All right, let's do this, move this down because it's not going to fit otherwise. And then take this. All right, and now divide in the bottom by cosine x, cosine y, and then 1 minus. And then apply the definitions here. So like in the denominator, sine x over cosine x is tan x. Sine y over cosine y is tan y. All right, then sine x over cosine x up there, that's going to be tan x. And then sine y over cosine y is going to be tan y. Cancel the cosine x and cosine y. So in other words, we just end up with the usual tan y plus tan x, hanging over 1 minus tan x and then tan y this way. Here's all of the work I've zoomed out on it. If you like math at this more abstract or advanced level, I post videos usually of that nature on a variety of topics. Algebra, trig, calculus, whatever strikes my fancy.